So welcome to my YouTube channel. That's what we call The Good Life. Today I'm going to be talking about all the things you can sow in February. If you've not already subscribed to my channel, if you could please do so, because I'll give you lots of helpful hints and tips all throughout the year from my home garden, my allotment and also my home kitchen. Now, I'm going to be talking about all the things you could sow in February, and you don't have to sow all of them. I'm also going to be talking about the things that I personally are going to be sowing and the options that you've got. You've got to remember it's the start of the season. Although there are a whole myriad of seeds you could be planting this month, there is really no rush, but there are some things, in my opinion, if you're going to do them, you need to get them in February to get the best crop. And other ones you can spread throughout the coming months and actually would do much better for starting a little bit later in the year, in my opinion, just from the personal experience that I've had. So first of all, I'm going to just roughly go through some of the things that you can plant. Now, an awful lot of these things, if you I'm going to give you a rough idea of what you can sow, but on the backs of the packets, they do give you a little bit of an idea anyway. Some of them say March, but you can start them off indoors in a heated propagator. I start most of my seeds, in fact I start all of my seeds off this time of year, pretty much in a heated propagator, just to give them that little kick to get them going. Now, some of the things you could be sowing, if you wanted to, are lettuce. So there's different types of lettuce there. You've got there's Mizuno, rocket, normal, just kind of like mixed lettuce there. If I was to start these off, even though the rocket says you can start them off outside in February, personally, if I was going to start these off, I would start them indoors in a heated propagator, and then I'd either keep them in a heated greenhouse or on a warm windowsill, which is what I will do. I'll keep them on my conservatory windowsill once they've germinated, or in my spare room. So that's the lettuce there. You can start beetroot, parsnips and radishes off. And although on the backs of some of the packets they say February, personally I would only ever start them off indoors initially. And actually myself, I'm going to wait until it warms up and plant them a bit further in the year. But again, the choice is yours. If you live in a really mild part of the country, some of these things can get started a little bit earlier, but I technically do. I live in Kent and we've had snow and a lot of ice just lately. And even if I didn't, generally speaking, when I've started them off too early, these haven't done as well as if I wait and put them out straight into the ground when it warms up. So direct sowing all those things, radishes, spring onions, parsnips and beetroot, I find I get a far better crop and a much easier, no-nonsense way of growing them as well. And some other things you could be growing, now these would obviously just be indoors or in a heated greenhouse. You'd obviously just grow these, just some of the lovely spring greens. So if you just want a little bit of fun, something really easy to grow, something really quick, there's a whole selection of different microgreens there: pak choy, mustard oriental, basil, chicory, and just your good old-fashioned mustard seeds there. So, other things you could be starting off are peas and broad beans. I haven't got any of my seeds for those. I have already started some of those off, but I probably will get some more. So that's something they do say you can start that off under clutches outside, but personally I prefer to start them off into module trays. But again, you've still got plenty of time to do things like that. Your onion sets, you could start them off. You definitely want to be getting your onion sets this month. I will put mine out in March straight into the ground, but if you want to, you can source them this month and you can put them into module trays if you want to get them started in an unheated greenhouse if you've got that. Glowed artichokes is another one that you could start this time of year, and things like Brussels and broccoli as well. You can get those. I will most definitely be probably starting some broccoli, but I need to source my seeds, which is why I can't hold it up and show it to you. And something else that you can source, you won't actually be planting them yet, but I've started to get my potato sets here. So I've got Charlotte already. I plan to get Kestrel and Picasso, but when I went down to the shop today they didn't have all of them. So what you're doing with these is you're going to start chitting them in February, ready to start putting them out from mid to late March. I will do a full video on that. But just in the meantime, a lot of people put them in dark places and it's the worst place you can put them. You want to keep them in sunlight, but not direct sunlight, but not too hot and not in a frosty environment. So I'm going to keep mine in my conservatory because it's unheated, but it won't frost over. So that gives you a bit of an idea of where to store them. If you start putting them in the back of a cupboard or a shed, they will start to sprout too much and the sprouts will come really leggy, and that's not what you want. So if you have got them, just make sure you keep them somewhere suitable. Now moving on to the things that, if you're going to grow them, you really must be getting them started now, if you've not got them started already, are your different types of peppers. So your chili peppers and your sweet peppers. They take a really long time to grow. And if you want to start these off and get peppers or chili peppers from your own seed, you need to be doing it now, because they are so slow growing, as are aubergines, for exactly the same reason. If you've not started them off already, February is a real must do. That being said, if you don't want to start them off from seed, you can get some really excellent grafted plants, which last year I got grafted aubergine and sweet peppers, and they both did absolutely fantastically. So it's up to you. I will probably start off some chilies myself, but if I'm honest, I'll probably buy some grafted plants, because I just got such vast quantities off of them. It was well worth the extra money. But it's your choice if you want to start them off from seed. Now the things I will definitely be starting off in February, so these are my 5 must-dos. So like I said, going to be starting my chilies off, that's a must do, and then obviously we started off in a propagator to get them started, and then I'll keep them in a frost-free environment, which will either be my spare room or my conservatory, which don't get too cold. My kale is definitely a must do, because we love our kale, and I love to get that started as quickly as possible. And also leeks is another one. I always start my leeks off in February for exactly the same reason. I think that they really benefit from being started off in February. And something that we really like is a bright lights chard, or you could just have normal chard. It's a really, really good all-rounder. It's really, really super and easy to grow, and I'll be starting that off. All these things will be started off in a propagator and not outside, unless of course you're fortunate enough to have a heated greenhouse. And last but not least, fantastic tomatoes. I've got 2 really lovely varieties here, Tomato-tastic and one of my very favourites, which is Roma. So those are my top 5 things that I'm going to be sowing. I'd love to hear what you're going to be sowing at the moment, and indeed if you've started anything off already. And if you've liked this video, please give us a like and tell us what you liked most.